you wanted a lesson, so I didn't force you.
Oh, she did, Michaela. She twisted my arm. I was like, look.
I believe it.
See that? She even made me bleed. I mean...
Darn it, Jamie.
I'm not even there physically. Like, she's, like, I'm in Oklahoma and she's in Ohio.
I mean, weirder things have happened.
I'm just saying, like, I don't know how you're putting all this blame on me.
Kimmy's not here.
Kimmy just said we're
fixing a water line. Or just coming back from fixing a busted water line.
That's only her.
It's fine. You can still get on. It's okay.
Ugh.
I was patting Clyde and nailed myself.
She did it to herself. She legit did.
I did.
Legit.
Oh. Lisa didn't join us after Christmas, but I came on here with a black eye and sick as a dog.
Yeah, this is true. This is really true. Yeah, it was bad. It's really bad. I had to ask her if it was from a horse.
Was it from a horse or from a dog?
It was from a dog, but not this one.
Yeah, but it looked really bad.
That's okay. I was giving Pam a hard time because she's my best friend and all. And I went to slap her, and that darn healer of hers started attacking my leg, like seriously grabbed my leg, and she's like, what's going on in there? Because I was following Pam. I go, River just bit me. She goes, no, she didn't. And I showed her, I started trying to pretend hit her, and her seriously started attacking me again. I'm like, this isn't play attack either. She's like, I ain't never seen her do that.
I shouldn't say funny, but...
Like... Our animals take on our attitudes and stuff, so there's that.
Yeah.
I'll leave it at that.
Lisa, how much of your phone battery you got?
I'm at 51%.
Oh, okay. You're good then. Okay.
Somebody ran my battery down in the cold.
Again, I didn't force you to have a lesson. You asked me.
I'm saying, twisted my arm. Kind of hurts right now.
Oh, well. All right. So, we'll get at it because I do hear my daughter crying, and I got to go get her out of her sleep. But the reason I picked working cows is because, like, Michaela, was it you that changed the question for the group to let them come in? Or who was it that changed the question? And are you muted, Michaela? I can't hear you.
I don't think so.
No, there. Now I could. Okay. And yeah, we get some weird answers, but I think I've been keeping track of some of the notes and for some of what people have been writing, and it's giving me some ideas for some of these lives because some of them are unique, and one of them was they wanted to learn how to work cattle, and I was like, hey, we can talk about that.
Yeah.
It could be fun. So, that's why I picked this, because I saw that and I put it in my notes and I asked Lisa, I said, hey, Lisa, you want to do this? Because I figured it'd be up her alley, and I wish Kimmy would get on too. But, I think it'd be a lot. So,
yeah,
I'm looking forward to this, even though I'm exhausted and my daughter has done nonstop fussing today.
No.
But I still think it'll be fun.
Is she teething?
I think honestly she probably is. She teethed her first two about 2 weeks ago, and super fussy. It was horrible.
Yay!
It was really bad. So she didn't hardly eat at all today other than Cheerios. I take a whole lunchbox that is mostly just hers. Different snacks, different foods. She wouldn't eat any of it.
Are you putting those things in the freezer and letting her chew on them?
Yeah, I do have a couple of those too.
Because I know those help some. Not 100%, but...
Yeah, it kind of numbs a little bit. Of course, if we were to revive my late great grandmother of whiskey.
Yeah. Hang on, sis. I'm coming. So, Lisa, do you want to start us off with cow work while I get her out of the car seat? Put her on the spot.
Well, you want me to kind of jump in with what I know, and you can pick up from.
Go for it.
All right.
Sure.
So I've been really fortunate that, thankfully, I've only worked cows, I guess, like 2 or 3. But I was really fortunate to a wee horse. So even though I didn't entirely know what I was doing, he was on it. Like, he's a cow, he turns into a gangster, and it's great. So is that, like, I really kind of picked up in all of it was having some of that ambition. Because you want to anticipate how the horse is going to react to what the cow is doing. And if you are fortunate like me and you get on a horse that has a better idea of what's going on, hold on. Because I know that, like, we training this. We purchased him anything about his past. We don't know about anything. He's a putt. Absolutely just cool. But the second we put him on a calf, it was like something clicked. And he was going for it. Low, duck to go. I almost lost my seat and went out. Because I didn't know he could do that. It's so on the fly, just out of nowhere, that I didn't have that anticipation ready, and so I feel like anticipation is a big key in a lot of it. Kind of understanding, like, what you're watching and what's happening and what's going on, because in some sense, the horse's instinct takes over in a way, and so you are able to curb that instinct if you have a different plan on what the horse is trying to do. So anticipation. Treat it like you're playing for the next move. Figure out what you're going to do after they do. So, I mean, that's one of the biggest things that I've picked up from it thus far is, you're watching cows, watching the horse, watching your own dang seat, because when that horse does something you didn't think it could do, you might come off.
True. I guess to start, I mean, do you want to talk about introducing the horse to the cows, or or are we talking about, like, just regular horse and cow, or cutting, sorting? Because I know with cutting, it's completely opposite of what sorting is. Except for when you're in the hole, that's when you're actually doing your cutting. Other than that, you're chasing cows or cutting, you're preventing a cow to get back to the herd. So you're mimicking everything that cow is doing.
Yeah. I think we need to start from the very beginning, because it doesn't really matter what that horse is going to be doing long term. You don't throw them at the cow right away.
What? Go ahead.
Desensitizing is something that I can talk about.
How I introduced all my horses to cows is put the cows in the arena, let the horse go. They'll figure it out on
that works. That works too. We've done that with a couple, because I had years ago when I worked at Abby's, we had one mare that I don't remember what the lady wanted to use her for, but she was legit terrified of the cows. And I mean, she would become like a bronc and just belligerent. And so we saddled her up and we turned her loose in the arena while Abby was doing cow work. And we'd leave her out there for like 2 hours. And then bring her back in the barn, put a bridle on, and then I'd go ride her without cows. But like she would, or even another horse ride up like beside her or behind her, like she'd lose her marbles. So like we did a lot of that. I've never seen a horse like act so goofy about that, but that helped ton, is just turn her loose in the arena with the other cows, let her sit down out there for a couple hours. After a while, she just learned, it's not so
I
bad.
love that works with cows, because like you can't do that with like llamas and alpacas, because if you try, then the horse just gets spit at and doesn't go real well.
Never thought of that.
Yeah, I learned that one the hard. Because I'll tell you what, my gelding is still terrified of alpacas. So I love works with cows. What I is connected to pen. They'll put young horses in a pen and cows on the other side of the pen, and that's their penning situation. Like, are cows until the cows are okay. And the reason that they did it that was because they thought that it was safer. That, like, if they just released that, excuse me, that horse out with the cows, some of the horses do go absolutely batshit crazy. Injury like that. And, with a barn that was, show horses. So they were not free. And they were also a breeding barn. And so what they started doing as they progressed in this was they would put the mare foal in the pen next to the cow. The mare was already comfortable with the cows. The foal would then grow up comfortable with the cows. And therefore, it was a chain. So, like, if you're getting a young horse or starting a young horse, it's the same advertising. The quicker that you injure, the easier. Even where my horses are kept back with my mom, they're not like steers like most people would work for, like working cows. Like full grown, he's probably like a 2,000.
I can't hear her.
I can't either.
See,
Again.
the video is doing fine, but can't hear you. I heard 2,000 and that was it.
Mark.
I thought there. Now I heard her.
Oh, okay.
Like, I've heard you for a while, and then I was like, wait, what happened? Maybe it was just me, because my internet keeps saying it's slow.
No, you either. It's I don't know.
Can you hear me now, though?
Yeah.
Okay, so he's like a 2,000 plus pound Hereford bull with a head the size of a bale of hay. And he is now the desensitizing topic for the horses, when we bring new horses on the farm, because same thing, the horse pen shares a fence line with the cows. And at this point, he's fine with it. He's learned that if he stands at the fence like a nice bull, then he gets thrown a little of the good hay, when we're doing hay transfer. So he's cool with it now. But, that was one of the first inclinations for us that this horse that I was working cows on was remotely cowy. Because the first thing he did was he went up to that pen and touched noses with that bull that weighs twice as much as he does. And, everything was fine and dandy. So, like, you can just turn them all out together. And, if you're willing to take whatever risk may come with that, it does work. But sharing a fence line, I think, is a great option, too.
So I'll tell a story from when I was a kid. I was in high school, and my parents helped me buy a barrel horse. And she was trained on the track, but never ran a race. She didn't make it that far. And then they tried to make her a Western pleasure horse, and that obviously didn't work. And so the lady I got her from turned her into a barrel horse. Where I grew up, there's a lot of Holsteins. And we put her in with a couple cows. And she was okay if she lived with them. But if she saw them while you were riding, she thought they were horrible. And, like, so I did junior rodeo through high school. And it was, like, she would lose for marbles. I remember one year or one rodeo, they had 2 pens set up and they ran them simultaneously. Rough stock in one and speed in the other. And I went in for a run. We got to first barrel. They let a bull out at the same time. She spooked so bad, she just ran that barrel plain over. Like, started to go around it, got here and went. It was all fine. We laughed. Okay, we can laugh about it. But to the day she died, she thought paint horses were cows, unless they had a rider.
That's bad.
That poor mare was traumatized by cows.
Oh.
We tried so hard. Like, she would live with them and she was fine. But if the paint horse did not have a rider, she thought it was a cow that was going to eat her. Like, legit was going to eat her. We had neighbors who raised paint, and I would, like, ride around the block, and the horses would all come running, and she would, like, oh my God, I'm going to die.
That's bad.
While we're on this topic, whether you ever intend to work cows with your horse or not, desensitizing to farm animals is key. It may not have to be an alpaca, because let's face it, not everybody has an alpaca, which is why to this day my gelding is still terrified of alpacas. But goats are a big one, because I knew a horse that could like look at a goat and it was fine, but if that goat screamed, it was all of a sudden not fine. You know, so
or if it's a whole herd of goats running up to them, they tend to panic too.
Yes.
Or a donkey that wants attention because she lives with horses.
Or a mule. Like, have you, like, the way that mules bray, it's like some of them have a weird combination between like a whinny and a bray. And so I see it all the time at work in the equine hospital, where we'll have a mule in for treatment, because strangely enough, we do work on some fancy dressage mules. So they're phenomenal. They're like well-bred, beautifully built, phenomenal animals. But when they call out, when they have that weird whinny bray combo, every horse in the barn like freezes and like shuts down. I saw like several like straight like starfish out in their stall in like a full panic. You know, so like think of the things that you may come across, you know, if you're planning on showing or doing games or, you know, all kind, you know, that kind of stuff, because the unfortunate reality of it is that if a horse is not somewhat at least desensitized to some of these things, something unpredicted may happen. You know, the alpaca landed me on my butt in the gravel driveway. So, you know.
I can tell you, the first time, I've introduced Clyde to cows, but there's a difference between taking your cows from the pasture, and I'm not talking about your full-grown cows. I'm talking about your calves that are about 600 pounds or so, because you're not sorting, 1,000-pound cows, 1,200-pound cows, full-grown. You're not doing it. You're doing calves. So I've introduced him the calves at the barn a time or two and taking him to shows. But I can tell you the best experience for that horse is taking him to a practice, and your sorting pins are certain sizes. Well, the practices, their pin is like half an arena, and your holding pin where you put the calves is so tiny.
Yeah.
So when you let out your calves, you got fresh calves, and you know what those calves are doing. They're like 100-mile-an-hour. They have the zoomies, and they're bucking, and they're running, and they're going like 100 different directions. You can desensitize them to cows in pasture, desensitize them to cows in the arena, but when you experience the zoomies, and they're going like 100 mile an hour in 100 different directions, it's nothing like it. That horse, when they all came running at him, he was like, "Nice to know you," and he went that way. And I guarantee you, every time we go there, and they're that fresh, and they're running at him, he's like, he's out. And it takes him a minute because it's not every day that these horses have something in that size of arena, just like 10 calves running straight at you. It's different. You can't train, you can't desensitize for that, except for going places like that. And hopefully the cows are that fresh where you can't have running straight at you. It's different. You can't.
Yeah, it gets interesting, that's for sure.
For sure. And, I mean, that's the best way I've found to introduce a horse to cows. Is just, if you have access to arena, throw a couple calves in there, throw a horse in there. You're in a controlled environment.
Yeah, absolutely.
My grandma, she's still alive in Texas, unfortunately. She would tell me, I don't like her with a passion. I really don't.
Okay.
I could care less about that woman. But she always tell me from being born up until today that the reason why people don't you don't put horses with cows because the horses will kill the cows. So you're not supposed to put horses with cows. And she will swear up and down. She's like 90 years old, and she will tell you this.
So, hold on, because that's hysterical, because my grandfather said the same thing. And he was like adamant. He was like, horses and cows do not go together. They do not go together. And then we like kind of accidentally spurred his theory on that when we put my gelding out in the field with the cows. And we are like, he likes cows. Like, it's no big deal. And this was years ago. Completely different gelding than I currently have. And we're like, no, like, he likes cows. Like, it's not a big deal. Like, you know, he's been around them at some of the other farms that he's been boarded at, you know, blah, 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 blah. So, like, we want to, you know, we didn't have his field set up. Our connecting field that we now have at the time wasn't set up yet. And so we're like, we'll just throw them out with the cows. Like, it's like, I think it's like 20 acres that they have. And we're like, we'll just throw them out with the cows. No big deal. Well, he heard the cow go and he got excited. And he wasn't like scared or anything. Like, he was just full blown excited and took off and tore through and tore down several fences, through some brush, uncovered some barbed wire that was apparently in that brush that we had no idea was there. And the cows got stirred up and the fence came down, and it was a whole, let's just say I spent a week repairing fence after that. So that spurred my grandfather for the longest time that, like, he was right. Like, they do not go together. And, you know, this is all your fault. So you're fixing the fence. And I was like, okay. So now that, like, we have that connecting pen where they can see each other over the fence, and the fact that this gelding that I have now will go over and, like, touch noses with this massive angry bull, and they'll, like, you know, play with each other. And, you know, my grandfather's like, well, look at that. That's weird. What a weird horse. And we're like, no, Pop, like, that's not that weird.
Well, every time, like, the neighbors down the road, they have one horse, and it lives out with their dairy cow. So every time I see a horse with cows, I take a picture and I send it to my sister, because her and my sister are like this. And I go, look, oh, those poor cows, they're going to die today. So, because the whole theory of the horse is going to kill the cows. So every time
I feel like a lot of people don't understand that a full-grown cow, like full-grown, weighs just as much, and in a lot of cases more, than a full-grown horse. Like, I weigh horses for a living, right? Like, I can tell you that the average size of, like, a English warm horse is between 11 and 1,400 pounds. That bull that my grandfather has on his property easily weighs a ton. Like, easily. And he's beef cattle stock. So, like, he was built to be big, to produce meat. Like, that's what he's for. And he's only going to be breeding stock. We're not eating him. But they're big. And a lot of people don't understand just how dense and how massive they actually can be full grown. because I feel like a lot of people just get so used to only ever seeing steers worked that they don't realize that, like, if you have to go out and you're actually like sorting real, you know, big, like Angus, Hereford, like they're big cows. They're going to weigh in just as much as your horse or more easily.
Yeah, that's what Kimmy does when on their ranch. That when they're sorting cows, it's not the kind of sorting I do. It's totally different. They're actually going in, peeling off calves, roping calves, branding calves, giving shots. So it's a whole different. I wish she was here because she would have so much input. But
that's what we were doing when I had him working cow. Was we were branching off babies to do shots and stuff, and that was a red and black Angus mixed herd, and something like 90 some cows. It wasn't a huge operation, but it was, you know, a good enough size that it taught the horses what needed to be done and that this was a process. But you know,
I can't say for those who are watching, if you want to get your horse on cows, if you say you want to do sorting versus cutting, you can use your mechanical flag to a point. Oh yeah. If you don't have cows, you can use your mechanical flag, but you have to keep in mind that cutting you're and what sorting you're chasing, and then you cut at the gate. So you have to stay behind the flag. You can't be nose and nose like a cutting horse. You have to kind of, and then when you go to work on the gate, you can then do that part of the flag, and that would help you get your horse used to things moving really fast, because usually in mechanical flags they have a cow, stuffed animal cow, and that will help the horse as well, like if you don't have access to cows. Or you can be goofy and make a flag like I did. I have access to a flag, but I'm not touching it, but I made my own.
I think it was with you guys. I had asked this, like, in, you know, our, like, messenger group. I had asked, I was like, you know, is there any hindrance to using a flag versus a cow? Because like, a lot of people nowadays, I feel like that's what a lot of people are moving towards, is like training on flags. But like, I can't help but wonder if, like, if all that horse has seen is this flag, whether it was bred cowy or, you know what, like, if all it's ever seen is this flag, is it actually going to be able to do the job in the arena when a cow gets there? Like, does there have to be some kind of balance of both?
I think it does, because a horse can only do so much in the arena. When you're on cows, that's where they actually learn the most, in my opinion, because you're working this little tiny thing going up and down the wall, where, like, with me, with sorting, I'm going like this and all over the place. I'm zigzagging. So then with the flag, they're learning, but they're not learning, right, Jamie? It's like they're learning how to use their body and stuff, but when it comes to actually working cows, that's where you actually, you know, the training is what falls into place.
There's some trainers, that's all they have is a flag. Mm-hmm. And so they use what they have. It does benefit a ton to have actual cattle, but you have to remember, like, that's not always widely accessible. It costs more because then you got to feed them. Mm-hmm. Either you buy them or you rent them. Regardless if you buy them or rent them, you still have to feed them. You have to doctor them. You might lose a couple. I remember one month at Abby's, like, and she rented them. Like, every month she'd get a new herd. The whole month, like, the whole herd was sick. It was bad. And I think she might have got to work them, like, once or twice. And the fur charity was coming up. It was really bad. Like, it was like crunch time, and over 3/4 of the herd was sick. And I mean, we were, like, doctoring on them every day. Like, we were going out, pushing them through the chute, temping them. We kept track of who we had treated so that we didn't treat, like, when you give, like, LA 300 or anything like that, like, you don't have to treat them every day. So, like, we were keeping track of who we had done and who, it was,
Right.
nothing got worked as far as, like, in the arena. Yeah, we pushed them up horseback, but we didn't work them the way that they needed to be worked for the show.
I'm glad that you brought that up, though, that, like, she got a new herd every month, because that's something that I feel a lot of people don't understand either, like, especially if they didn't grow up around cows or, like, they're just starting to get into this, is that even if you do, buy some cows, and you're like, oh, well, now I have the cows to do this, they get desensitized to it, too.
Yes.
And so it gets to a point where after a while, it's no longer working. Like, these cows are like, I'm not doing this. Like, I know what's going to happen. Like, I'm not going to participate. Like, this isn't how this is going to go. And they're just over it. And so there has to be a rotation so that when you do go out to work the horse, the cows aren't essentially, like, for lack of a better term, they're not dead to it. And I've seen that happen a lot, where people would just go and they would buy, like, 6 or 8 steer or something and be like, cool, now I have some cows to work. And then, like, a month or two later, they're like, well, why isn't this working anymore?
Mm-hmm. The sorting I have on Saturday, they have over 30 head of cattle just for this sorting. Because if we just keep riding on the same cows, the cows are going to be so easy to sort and automatically go where they need to go.
Mm-hmm.
It'd be pointless to even do it. So you have to run them a couple of times, switch cows. Run them a couple of times, switch cows. So you can't keep working them, otherwise they'll just be dead. And I have seen people that love those dead cows, that love learning, getting young horses on those dead cows, because it teaches them a little bit. And some of your not ropers, but the other, like the ranch roping, the ones where they rope. It's kind of like heading and healing, but then they hop off and doctor the cow. I forget what it's called, but that's the thing. Some of the people down the road, they started doing that, and they use these cows for everything, like for their clinics, for everything, even their little show they're putting on. They're using these dead cows, so basically you can walk up there, rope it, get off your horse, go take the rope off, and repeat over and over again, which at some point it don't teach you anything other than, ooh, I can rope a dead cow. And I don't mean dead as in actually dead, I just mean it's so used that it's just dead.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
and good for young horses, but after that, don't use them anymore.
That's, yeah.
Or you can just pull a sled around.
Yeah. But yeah, going back to flag work, the other thing too is a flag doesn't have the same smell as a cow.
Nope.
I mean, the smell alone can be
The trigger.
intimidating. Yeah,
That
can be very intimidating.
the tail, whip it around, especially with sorting. I can't tell you how many times the horses get hit in the face with the tail if they swish it. I don't know how you get desensitized to that.
You can kind of say the other way on that too, right? Because like I said, like we got this little gelding. We knew nothing about him, and we had done all kinds of stuff with him, and he was pretty desensitized to a lot of things. And he was easy to further desensitize to things because he's just a very level-headed kid. But the second he was out in a field and asked to work a cow, and he caught that whiff, it was like, something snapped, and it was a completely different horse. Like, the trainer called me and was like, he turned into a gangster. She's like, I did not expect that. She's like, he is so level-headed, he is so mild-mannered, like, he's such an upstanding citizen all the time. And then as soon as he turned on that cow, it was like something snapped. It was like he was going to get it whether I asked him to or not. And it was the same thing. They were doctoring cows. They were switching out horses. It was a training experience. They were, using a couple of different horses for healing, heading, switching back and forth. So everybody got some time on that feeling of it without using the same horse, who's not used to doing this all the time for like a full day. and they let him off, and they had like a small like a quick setup pen like off to the side, and they just kind of like took his bridle off and put him in there for a bit while they were working on another cow. And from the fence line, he was working the cows on the other side and keeping them away with the dog, the cattle dog, in tandem on the back side of the herd. He was working the front by himself, no rider. Like, he was just like, cows moving this direction, no, and started running the line, keeping the cows away from the line. And like, if you just put him in a field with, you know, in the arena like that, like, he would just stand there. He would be like, smell a couple things, walk around. But the second that cow, like, as soon as he catches that whiff, it's a completely different horse. And so, like, I don't think he would chase a flag. I really don't. But you put him on that cow, and all of a sudden he's going to work.
Well, you can always get a cowhide and try it. Because with my homemade flag, I got clothesline. I run it from one end of the arena and put it on a pulley, come back, and I have a drill that I bought just for this. I made a pulley to put on that so I can run the cord to clothesline line through, and that way you can change the speed on the drill. You got to have somebody to drill it pull the trigger, but it'll go down and back. And I put a bandana on that, but because it can't hold that stuffed cow that's hanging in the tack room, it's just too much weight. But you can always get you like a hide and put it on your flag line, or it might work.
Yeah, I don't know. I also don't know how long that hide would actually hold the scent. Like, if you're using it regularly, I mean, how long is that gonna, like, keep that scent on it?
Well, they use you can use deer antlers and teach a dog to find that in the woods.
Yeah.
So if that'll work with dog, it should work with horse, right? I mean, they're not the same, but at least the scent would be there for a while. Stored in a bag, like you know those bags that you can suck all the air out, what are they called, vacuum seal bags? Stored in one of those, and then when you need it, open it up.
Yeah. Because that's like, I know that like when you're like grafting like foals or calves, like it can only be so old to use for the grafting, or else, you know, the cow won't accept it. So I wondered how long that hide would actually work in tandem.
Yeah, I don't know.
I never tried it.
I haven't either. It's a good question, though.
Oh,
Good question.
for those who don't have access to cows or a flag, but you have access to a friend. My friend that Jamie gave a lesson to, I've had her pretend back and forth just to work the hole, and that works too. It works. And I did that with Frank. Or if
a friend might work. A friend might get him, especially if they're carrying, you know, like a muffin. Like, hey, I got a muffin. He's gonna be like, muffin.
I don't know. And then I would have her zip around the arena, and I would sit there and, you know, pretend I was sorting her because I didn't have nothing to work with, and it worked.
Oh my gosh.
You should ask her. Who do you think drags my sled? Me, arena.
Hopefully with a four-wheeler.
My four-wheelers are out in the arena. I have to wait until it's dry outside to use it. That's in the summer. She's not nice enough to drag it for me. I mean, I have to pay her a little bit, but...
I was going to say, do you pay her? Because I sure as heck hope you do.
Yeah, she won't do it for free. I have to pay her.
Okay.
Her thing is, am I going to get hurt? I'll never ask her now. Am I going to get hurt? She's like,
I'm dragging the sled?
well, you know, when it involves the horse, because usually my idea is get people hurt, so so I'm like, hey, you want to go do this? Am I going to get hurt? Because the last time there was a stray cat stuck on the porch, and my idea was to throw it in a kennel and give it away. I said, well, it likes you the most, and so you grab it and I'll throw on the crate and you shove it down in there. That thing bit through her thumb. She had to go to the emergency room.
Oh no.
So usually she gets hurt with my ideas. So she's like, am I going to get hurt? So ask her, she'll tell you.
Oh, man.
Note
But,
to
yeah,
self: if if Lisa asks for help, no.
I mean, she did for today, but I'm 1,000 miles away, so I was via camera, so it was all right.
I did get hurt. See? Petting the horse. I got hurt petting him.
I didn't do that. You petted him yourself
I did.
on your own time?
Look, I get hurt, but it's usually at work. Jogging a horse doesn't like to be jogged.
I did learn something today with the lesson with Jamie, though. If I... Lead rope would have been better. Like the rope halter and lead rope. If I drag my sled around, I can work with him a little bit. It's kind of hard holding a lead rope and dragging the sled by yourself. But he does follow it. He follows it pretty good. And when you stop, he stops.
Yeah.
So that's an option if you make your own roping sled like I did. Option.
Yeah. One of the big things that I feel like too many people do that don't know cows or don't know how to introduce horses to cows if they can't just put them in a pen next to them or pasture with the cows is that people will go into an arena and they'll just try to get up in there. And I've seen that go bad too many times. Now, don't get me wrong. We've taken reiners in with the cows. We've taken barrel horses in with the cows. I think it's really good for all of them to get used to it. Colts that only have, a couple rides, maybe 10. I wouldn't do it super, super green. But, you got some basics, some, walk, trot, lope, some steering, one rein stop, if something starts to go south. But if somebody else can be in the arena doing something with a cow and you can sit at the other end of the arena and it's big enough and just watch, and I'm not talking, maybe more like boxing or cutting. I'm not talking about, come on, you don't got to get in the way. The cat jumps up. I'm like, no. And more controlled so that that horse, that green horse, isn't going to get run over or get in a wreck because the cow gets too close. And then when that cow is tired, you can take that green horse and you just track them. And by tracking, I mean you just stay on their butt, just directly behind that tail, and you just track them. And if they trot, you trot. If they lope, do they call it loping for cows? I don't even know.
Well, really, in Sorton, the really good people with their really expensive horses, that's all they do is lope around in that tiny pen. Like they don't trot. They're so fast that it's done.
Huh.
But mostly it's for people like me and like 1s, 2s, and 3s, maybe 3s. We're trotting. We don't not loping unless you got that $30,000 horse where it knows what to do and you just sit there and go. We're trotting.
Right, and I just meant like for beginners.
Yeah.
Like beginners, like a green horse, showing a green horse a cow.
Yeah,
So if the cow walks, the horse walks behind it. Or if it stops, you better stop. Like, don't run over it. Or if it, and don't be like right on its butt. You gotta give it space. And I find like too many people don't know that. They just think, oh, we're gonna go in there and we're gonna go cut cows, and the horse goes and boogers off. They don't realize, this takes time. And then once they get comfortable being able to push the push the cow, then you can start doing other things. It's kind of like me with my daughter in the stroller. I'll push the stroller and lead a horse, and the horses are all like, okay, whatever, it's fine, we're going towards it. But I'm not gonna drag it behind me and lead a horse. Like that's asking for trouble.
Yeah,
but it's the same concept.
Yeah, that's what I did with Clyde at the practices. she'd let me go in there and I just follow the cow afterwards because they're all wore out. I'd follow the cow, and then if it trotted off, I trotted right behind it. They never run unless they're fresh, so we never really loped after them. So 99% of the time, we just trot for the most part. Except for the last practice, we actually, well, no, that was on Frank. Never mind. Me and Frank go like 100 miles an hour because he knows what to do.
Well, that's one of the things that I kind of want to hit on with all of this too, and like kind of a completely different side of it. This is the side of things that I know best. Haha. Is some of the physical and medical strain involved in some of the work. I know that there's always videos floating around YouTube, TikTok, Facebook of like these big competitive, like national awarded horses, and they're working a cow and they're getting real low. If you're doing that, and that's fine, that's what they're bred to do, I understand that. But you also need to have an understanding of the fact that a lot of these horses, especially as they start to go up in age a little bit, need a little additional joint support that some other working classes of horses do not.
You know what gets me about that though? Like, I've talked to I have multiple vets. I have one just for shots, one for lameness and all that other expensive stuff, and then I have one for each thing. None of them can really recommend a good joint supplement. Like, it's like, you can't get them to say, hey, I recommend this, or anything like that. It's like, oh, well, you just, go to the store and just take whatever. I'm like, so I never know what to buy. So
some of that, you're not going to be able to go to the store and just buy a good supplement. I'm sorry. I'm going to come out and say it. It's not a thing. I didn't want to have to do that here, but here's the kicker, right? Is that anything that you're buying over the counter from the store as a supplement, a lot of it isn't entirely tested, FDA approved, none of that. It's literally something, because they can get away with doing this if it's animal science. They can just throw it out, say that it works, and, have a good day. And some things, do kind of work. What is it? Casaquin?
That stuff's good stuff, but it's expensive.
It is. And that's kind of the kicker, is we discuss this all the time, right? People want fast answers, fast results. It's the same thing with nutrition and, supplements, is that you're not going to find really anything that's going to work well and not be expensive. The things that cost you are because they have science backing them, and they need to cover that science that's backing them. So Casaquin is one of them. It's used in dogs, horses, etc., etc. And it is expensive, but there is actually science behind that, and it does actually work. Granted, it's also not going to work as well as some of the medications and things that you can get from your veterinarian.
Well, like the Previcox and things of that nature.
So Equiox and Previcox are the same drug. Equiox is sold for horses. Previcox is sold for small animal. They are the same drug. And the thing with that is...
Lisa looks so confused, but yes, it is. We've used it interchangeably.
That's what they give the horse at the barn for its...
Yeah, so you can give Previcox to horses.
Okay.
The only thing that's different is the price and the dosing. And this drives me nuts, because for Equiox, you give a whole tab. For Previcox, it's a larger tab that you cut into quarters, and a horse only gets a quarter. Weird, right?
No, because I opened it for today, and this is a little tiny pill that was in a little tiny package by itself in a box, Previcox box about yay big. And she had me open it because she didn't have fingernails. So yeah, it was a little tiny pill that and its own little metal plastic. You know how you have to pop it through?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They get cut in half. They're supposed to be anyway. I don't know. I'm not going to argue with somebody else's vet because I'm not a vet. I just work with a crap ton of them.
I am so lost on.
Moving on. Anyway, it's an NSAID. It's an NSAID. It is a non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drug. That is what an NSAID is. The problem with NSAIDs is that, so like bute and banamine are also NSAIDs. They are strictly for pain relief, lowering fever, and reducing inflammation in, a swollen joint or something. The kicker with it is they're not good for the liver and kidneys. And they can also cause stomach ulcers. And so that's where Previcox and Equiox come in, is that they are scientifically proven to be less hazardous to the stomach biome and less likely to cause ulcers. The difference is that banamine can be given in an instant for relief. The Equiox has to be given regularly. So that's a daily drug. Because it is a slightly lower dosing that has to maintain in the system rather than a hyperdose at a particular moment. So that's an NSAID. So that's going to help with things like arthritis pain. Maintain in the system rather than a hyperdose at a particular moment. So that's NSAID. So that's going to help with things like arthritis pain. So if you have a horse that's showing signs of being arthritic already, it'll help keep them comfortable and it'll help keep the inflammation down, but it is not a supplement. It is not aiding in the health of that joint. So
Navicular.
Navicular?
Yeah. Does it help with that? Asking for a friend.
Navicular is a soft tissue injury. My brain's frying out, Jamie. There's another name for navicular disease.
There's actually two, from what I understand.
Look at her.
One is a navicular symptom, and one is a navicular disease.
Yes.
And I can't remember which one is which, so don't ask me because I don't remember. But I do remember my farrier explained it to me at one time, and so one of them, the way that do what?
The disease is degenerative, and the symptom is on spurt.
That could be. But from what he explained, is one can be the tendon sheath inside, versus the other can also be like the navicular bones. So I don't remember which one is which.
The disease is going to affect both and primarily the bone, because that's where you're going to get the disease, is that it's actually going to start deteriorating bone structure.
Okay, that makes sense. And so it would affect both feet, not just one.
Right.
Wait.
Okay.
So when you get navicular in a horse, it affects both feet, and not just one?
It should. If it's navicular disease, that's what we were trying to differentiate, was that one is a navicular symptom, so that it's something that can be like corrected or medicated or healed a lot easier. The other one is the disease, which is actually going to do like permanent or longer lasting damage, and that would affect both feet, where the symptom would only affect one. That's
right.
Part of the
So is there any
diagnostic criteria.
So is there anything like working cows or anything, because it's a lot on their joints? How do you, like, you can't stop it from happening, but what's, other than joint supplements, what else can a person do to help their horse's legs and things of that nature? Other than, like, you got your boots, you got your straps and all that. I mean, because it's like the horse at the barn. He had to have surgery on his leg because something happened working out. And now he has navicular. So how do you, and he's only 10.
Yeah.
And so how do you make that horse last longer if you're working cows so much?
We were actually just having this conversation today. We were talking about joint and soft tissue healing process and what can be done on athletes to encourage healing or beneficial aid to certain areas, to essentially make it longer lasting or longer standing. One of the primary things that actually came up was shockwave therapy.
Really?
Yeah. So what shockwave therapy actually does is that it basically irritates the area enough to increase blood flow to that location. And as the blood comes in, it starts to bring like healing, chemicals, different parts of the blood. And my brain is frying out because it's late and I've worked a shit ton. But it'll actually start to bring in the healing particles directly to that area. And so they typically recommend it in like either after, like a heavy competitive showing weekend or whatever, to do it after that, or to do it in 3-week intervals periodically. I'm sorry, 3 treatment intervals periodically. So like if you were to do it like say 3 times a year, you would do 1 treatment, wait 2 weeks, do another treatment, 2 weeks, do another treatment. And then that's going to encourage that healing into that area. You can do it on humans as well. And one of the things that actually brought a lot of this into conversation is that one of the people who works at our hospital is also like a marathoner. We're talking like the massive crazy people. I don't know how she has the energy for this crap marathon. And she will actually shockwave her ankles and her knee after major marathons because it helps bring that healing back into that joint and into those tissues, and limit, like, it helps with the letdown from competing like that, and then also encourages that healing further in to prevent damage from continuously doing it.
Well, that's because I know, because like I said, there's people watching and they're wanting to learn about cows and stuff. So if you're going to get started in that, we need to learn how to take care of their legs, because it can be really hard on their legs.
Yeah, and very specifically, you're going to see hocks, carpus, stifles, and SIs are kind of going to be your prime targets on this issue, as well as suspensories. The suspensories are a little bit harder. Doing, appropriate wraps and stuff for these exercises helps with that aspect a lot. Because, you're giving support to those ligaments. Give me a second. I'm pulling a pizza out of the oven one-handed like a socio.
That's what I had for supper.
So, yeah, a lot of people are like, oh, well, I don't want to take my horse into the show ring with, like, wraps or boots or, whatever. But the thing is that those safety items are potentially going to prevent a career-ending, injury, or, stop that horse from being laid up for a year.
Right.
And so, like,
Why?
I wish
Is
that.
it because they don't know how to put them on correctly?
What do you mean?
The leg boots or leg support.
I mean, if they're not put on correctly, they damage. That is 100%
Right.
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 But a lot of people just don't want to use them for shows. Like, they're like, oh, well, like, a cowboy wouldn't, have this on his horse. And it's like, nobody cares what the cowboys are doing anymore. I'm sorry.
But,
Like,
to
protect your horse.
To go off subject a little bit, I kind of miss the cowboy days compared to what the people I work with. They're the 19 and 20-year-olds, and listening to them, I'm like, I miss those days. But even though they were wrong and did things wrong, it's like,
I grew up in a cowboy barn. I remember walking in and then breaking off the filters of their cigarettes and feeding it to their horse, and leaving beer bottles on the stall doors and wondering who's drinking all of their damn beer because the horse has been chugging it, hiding it in the shavings. I remember those days. I remember those guys, and they were a hoot.
Yes.
But the science, the science has come a long way since I was a kid. I mean, we're talking 23 years ago since, like, I spent a lot of time around these guys. And the science has come a long way. And so these guys who were very much like, oh, well, a lame horse is a dead horse, we now know that a lot of these lamenesses can be corrected, can be fixed, and a lot of these horses can come back to consistent and good work. You know, it's not what it used to be. And so you can't continuously go back to them and be like, oh, well, they wouldn't have. Yeah, well, they would have shot a horse if it was too lame. So figure it out. Put the wraps on the horse, protect the suspensories.
Yeah. We always did.
Yeah. I mean, and that's, you know, they're like, oh, well, it doesn't look good in the show because, you know, blah, 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 blah. Nobody cares what looks good. Protect your horse. That horse is doing a lot of work for you, and it is doing hard work and good work. Protect it.
Yeah.
Feed it well, give it what it needs, and give it every protection possible. Health in a horse is legs and stomach. I'm sorry, I'm done. If you don't take care of those two things, you aren't going to have a horse. End of story.
Right. Michaela, somebody asked in the group, because I shared this link into the group.
Okay.
And they asked, do you know if Smart Earth Camellia oil is good? I don't know if that's spelled correctly. I've never heard of it, so I don't know. I don't know if you've heard it, or even you, Lisa.
I've never heard of it.
No. And here's one of the things that's really kind of kicking in the veterinary industry right now is a lot of people are moving into homeopathic treatments, which is kind of more along what that sounds like to me. It says that it's a camellia or a carnelia oil. They're both flowers. They're both oiled. And they both do have a medicinal use. But one of the things that I'm coming across a lot seeing some of these homeopathic treatments is that they're mislabeled for dosage. A lot of people, you know, like turmeric is a big one. Turmeric is an anti-inflammatory. And, you know, it's great and it works. But what we're not taking into consideration is that a dosage for a human is going to be minuscule next to the dosage for a horse. And so you have these supplements that they're like, give this supplement and, you know, it will fix all of your horse's problems. When in reality, you probably need to give 20 of those supplements in order to even see anything.
Well, that's like what I know. A lot of people love this stuff, like what Gut X. They actually blocked me and Kimmy because Kimmy asked them several questions, valid questions, and they wouldn't really answer it at all, and they blocked both of us. So we can't see any of their stuff because all we wanted to know was how do you know what science was done and proven? And they couldn't answer it. And they blocked us.
So I cringe whenever I see their stuff because they're posting like straight God brought his hands down from heaven miracle like concepts, and unfortunately people are buying it. The thing is that like one of the things that they posted was for like their osteo whatever, like it's the same company but they were posting for like some kind of osteo health or whatever. And they were talking about like this foal that was born with like some kind of like carpal damage and like how, you know, the vet said that it would never, you know, entirely heal correctly or it would need like an expensive surgery or X, Y, and Z. And they're going into this whole like medical history about like what was wrong with this carpal damage. And then they're like, well, so long after putting them on this supplement, the vet came back and reevaluated for the surgery and it was all gone. No, it wasn't.
Yeah, they blocked us because they couldn't. I mean, yeah, and we didn't say nothing. We just wanted to ask solid questions. What studies have you done? And they
couldn't. It's always the correct question. If you are able to contact a representative for any kind of supplement that you're considering using, and you can talk to a representative, ask them for the medical backing and for the tested information. 20% of the time, they're going to block you. And 50% of the time, they're either going to tell you that they're actively trying to get some, or they can't give that information to the public, which quite frankly they can. In fact, they have to if they have it.
I was gonna say, if they can't give it to the public, then that tells me what are they hiding. And I'm one of those, like, if a new product comes out, I am super leery of it. I'm gonna ask 100 different people how they like it and get their feedback, and then I go, oh look, it sucks. Glad I didn't waste my money.
Well, that's so. I'm going to kind of touch on this very briefly because it's not what this group is about, but just to kind of give everybody an idea of what I'm talking about when I talk about like animal, medicine and being vet tested and X, Y, and Z, right? One of the top conversations in all of vet at any given point, because we all have one, is dog nutrition. Do you know how many dog foods, like brand name dog foods, are actually backed and tested and designed by veterinarians?
Or like 2.
You have any idea, Jamie?
No idea. I mean,
Can you name all 5 though?
I used to be able to when I worked in small animal, and then there's some that I personally still use myself or am familiar with that I can still name. Hills is one of them. Purina is one of them. Iams is one of them. And the other 2 I can't remember because I've never used them and really haven't had any intention to use them. And the other thing too is that Hills and Purina both actually have a veterinary program. So if you work in veterinary medicine, because they are all like run by veterinarians themselves, you get major discounts if you can prove that you work in an animal hospital. Like they will heavily discount your pet's food. Yeah. Especially if it's like one of the medicated foods, like they will heavily discount your pet's food. Yeah. Especially if it's like one of the medicated foods. And the reason that they do that is because they're veterinarians. Like they get it. So supporting other veterinarians. And so it doesn't matter if you work in equine med like I do versus small animal med. My dog is on a sensitive skin and stomach formula because she's a pansy. And, I get a discount on that to help take